everybody. Welcome to the Author's Porch, where every good conversation starts. We are excited. We have Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Author's Porch, where all good conversations start. We are so happy to be back with you after last week's debut launch of the Author's Porch magazine and all of the crazy shenanigans we got up to. We are well rested. At least we're well rested. We got Sophie to come all the way here from the UK, 1 a.m. her time, and bless her soul because she is here with us. Sophie, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well at the moment. I may not be able to get all my words out, so you have to bear with me, but super excited. And I'm glad to hear that somebody's up to naughty shenanigans because my life is pretty boring at the moment. So I will enjoy listening to a few of yours later.
Yeah, we're so excited to have you here. I've been reading a little bit of your book over the past week, and I am just falling in love with it. So I want to give the audience a little bit more information about you before I just start going all into the book, because sometimes I do that. Then I go, hey, wait a minute, people don't know about Sophie or, the way that I do. So let me tell you guys about Sophie. Sophie is a personal assistant to a high net worth person and their family, along with a super creative mind. She hosts a podcast, which is called Whine with Sophie, and has a psycho-spiritual business called Sophfree. She has a degree in psychology and training in psychotherapy, along with a coaching certificate in holistic health coaching. She is a natural empath with compassion and intuition to help professional women heal their core soul wounds. Her debut memoir, There's Always a Hitch, was inspired by her mother's diary of her travels during 1958, which shows the friendship, resilience, and the insight of the women during their times, along with Sophie's own travels. And I will tell you guys that it is super cool because you get to hear of her mother and her friends' travels and the things that they went through. And then Sophie did the same type of travels. And I am just loving it because I had so many questions. I was like, really? Like, I cannot imagine being just so free and just living and traveling. So without further ado, Sophie, wow.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, it was a gift that my mum gave me a few years ago when she handed me her diaries and her scrapbooks. And of course, she regaled a lot of stories about her travels. And sadly, she passed away, was it 13 years ago now? And I really, really wished I had asked her more questions because really the book threw up more questions than they did answers. But it was so special. And a lot of the time she was with me on the travels, sending me signs, with various ones. And yeah, it was just something so magical and such a once in a lifetime experience for me. And to be able to regale, as I say, her stories and write them down for other people to read and inspire other people. It was such an amazing time.
Yeah, I find it very interesting as I'm reading the stories of yourself as well as your mom, the characters that you guys encounter along your journey. Um, they have their own personalities and their own characteristics, and I don't have any names or anything like that, but so I want to ask you, I know that you had said there's a couple of ladies in the book, one that you mentioned her name. Were you able to talk to her and get some insights into the travels, and kind of along the way when you had some of those questions?
Sure, yes, Jerry. She was a very good friend of Mum's, right up until Mum died. And it was, and she actually sent me some photographs, and yes, her few notes that she wrote as well. There's a chapter about them going to Catalina Island, and they actually get separated, and Jerry goes off on her own, and Mum and June go together. And luckily, Jerry had written her diary down of what happened with her, so I was able to actually sort of incorporate hers as well. So that was super exciting. And yes, I mean, Jerry is, I think she's Irish descent, so she absolutely loves talking, and she will talk the nose off a horse,
Yeah.
and tell stories about what they got up to and how special it was. But yeah, she was so excited about me doing it.
So, did you always want to write this book, or did you always want to just write a book? And this one just called to you to be your debut?
I never thought about writing a book, to be honest. An idea came to me a couple of years before, and I was actually going to write more about our family, as such, because I was actually discouraged from school that my writing was horrendous and I would never amount to anything. By it
Yeah.
was our English literature teacher, and she was actually the headmaster's wife, and she took a dislike to me for some reason. Okay, I was very cheeky, and I would answer back to her. That's probably why she didn't like me much, but yeah, she never had any faith in me. And I remember her when I got my GCSE, which is a sort of 16-year-old exams that we get. She called up the exam board and said, "No, can you please remark Sophie's paper, because I don't believe she should have got the grade she got."
Oh
She's,
my word.
and they turned around and said, "No, no, no, she deserves it. She's actually on the border of getting a higher grade, but no, we'll keep her as she is." And so this is how discouraging this woman was to
Yeah.
me, and anything to do with writing or being creative, it was very stifling.
Mhm.
But I'm not one for really listening to an awful lot of people, but it certainly did dent my confidence.
Yeah.
And when I started thinking about writing the book, I really thought I couldn't do it. And there are times in the book I actually mention about my imposter syndrome with, can I actually do this? I mean, there are people who sort of go to university or study writing, and there's me bumbling along, sort of just, writing what I'm seeing and feeling in the moment.
Yeah.
So I think that, yeah, it was just an in the moment thing, that I had Mum's diaries and scrapbooks, and I wasn't exactly succeeding in my life as an entrepreneur. I was feeling a little bit down. I wanted to reconnect with Mum, and I also wanted to inspire people. My business coach said, "Go and write a self-help book." And I said, there are millions of self-help books out there. I don't want to inspire people that way or teach people about life that way. I want to go and do something different. So yeah, that's what I did. I, took 2 suitcases loaded with God knows what. I still think I had a family in them. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And the scrapbook and diary, and went traveling.
And I love that you said the self help book and you didn't want to write your normal self help book. But this book, as I'm reading it, because I'm not halfway, I'm about a quarter of the way through. But talk about a mother daughter journey. So many years apart, and you are doing your travels after your mom has already passed, but you're kind of following in her footsteps. And it's like you even said that you're getting signs from her, so it's like she's there with you. I think that every mother and daughter should read this book together and travel this journey with you and your mom, because it is very fascinating the way you wrote it. And what I find is and I lived 3 years in England, in the Cotswolds over in Gloucestershire. And I will tell you that every person who is cheeky as a child turns out to be extremely successful. So that headmaster's wife, well, you just showed her you wrote a successful book as well as running a successful business and podcast. So There we go. Um, but I loved, and then the bravery that it takes to go on those travels. I traveled a lot, but it was with the military. Like they always paid for it and they always sent me. And I was always, I couldn't imagine just so much freedom. How did you feel just going with it? Like I read some of it, so I know how you felt. But talking about just the thought of just going at it on your own, what was that, freeing or was it frightening?
It was both. Mum had a big hand in that as well. She was such a big character in my life. When I was growing up, we didn't have a great relationship. It was only until I turned about 18 that I actually changed our relationship and we became best of friends.
Mm.
But my father died when I was 4, so we grew up without a father. But mum, she never stopped life because she was on her own. And I grew up with this. I watched her traveling on her own, and going to social groups on her own. And although she had incredible fear, she never let that hold her back. She would always just have the gumption to go for it. And as my first page says, and I apologize for your listeners, FUCK, fear. And that was kind of her mantra. And also, she just said, don't live with regrets. Go out there and live life and grab it by the balls and enjoy and have fun. And I think that's really what kept me going. And I've been a very independent person anyway. So traveling on my own wasn't too scary as such. What was more scary was I was doing it with no money,
Oh,
and
that's scary.
it is, it is. Yes, because you just don't have choice, and in the book I talk a lot about my disasters with my accommodation, and I didn't have any, I didn't have any choice because I didn't have the money to go anywhere else. Excuse me. So that was that I think was the most fearful, but I had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
So I know earlier you were talking about imposter syndrome, and for so long I thought that I was the only person that had this thing, and then I learned that there's so many people that suffer with imposter syndrome. The difference between us, me and you, and a lot of other folks, and those who suffer with it and don't do anything with their lives is we're willing to face the fear, right? So I have this personal quote that I live by, that I absolutely love, and it's even in my own book. It says, "I live free because I don't let fear own me," and that's basically, and just like you said, fuck fear, for lack of better words. Um, it just basically, you have to face it. It's not that you ever like get rid of imposter syndrome, because I still have my moments, that I go, oh, am I even good enough to do this? And sometimes with my guests that are super successful like yourself, I go, oh, am I going to look like some idiot talking to this successful person? I mean, but the thing is you have to face the fear, because you never know what's on the other side of fear, which is victory, unless you face it. And there's so much facing of fear in this book, and I absolutely love that, because it teaches things. And that's why I say mothers and daughters read it together, because a lot of times those mother and daughter relationships are broken, unfortunately. There's just something about women that sometimes we just don't get along. And with my mother, I had the same thing until I was an adult. But I want to ask you, I know that you had said you want to write another book off of your mother's diaries, but a romance. But will you always write from the diaries, or will you write just based off of nonfiction, fiction, or something else, or will it always be based off of the diaries?
Well, it's interesting because I've actually put another book on hold for now. I'm writing a screenplay of the book. So it was always, when I actually originally thought about it, I wanted it to be a movie. And funnily enough, I was sitting in Cannes. This is all very glamorous. I was sitting in Cannes at the film festival talking to Jerry, funnily enough, and I had just received her part of the diary and things, and I was saying that I really want to make a movie. I've decided now to go for it. But I felt more overwhelmed writing a screenplay than I did a book, and it's a very different writing style, I think. But I've again faced my fear with that, and I've decided to go for it. So the book is kind of on hold. However, there is actually much more to Mum's story. What happened beforehand, because she actually, before they traveled, before they went hitchhiking, Mum decided to go to Toronto, to Canada, because she lived in a small village in the north of England, and she just thought this is just not adventurous enough, so she decided to go to Canada, and she ended up in this place called excuse me, I don't know what's wrong with my voice. She decided to go to this place called Fudger House, which was run by a gentleman called Mr. Fudger, who owned a department store. And he wanted to set up a sort of home for international women. Nothing dodgy. It was sort of like a finishing school etiquette. And they had strict rules they had to abide by, but they got the social side, the friendship side, and also kind of social living out there. Yeah. And it's a fascinating story of that. And I have a few pages of her diary regarding that. So a lot of it would be fictionalized, fictionalized really, or my imagination sort of stepping into my mum's mind. Yeah. Because she was a bit of a party animal. She liked her party, a little bit like you with your shenanigans. You and her probably would have got on very well.
She sounds like a lovely lady that I would have absolutely adored. You know, when you were talking about that house and the social living and then that stuff, you know, the show, I don't know if you've seen the show called The Midwife.
Oh, well, I have never really watched it. I've seen it, obviously.
Yeah, it's an English show, and it's not like huge social where you can party, but they're actually nurses, and it's I don't know what year, probably the 30s or 40s, and the nurses, they go and they live with the nuns, and they're actually the midwives. They study midwifery, and so they're all living, and they're all share rooms and stuff. So they're in like this social construct. They become close friends and they go out when they're not working and stuff like that. So that show just came to my mind. I watch it. I just love those type of shows. So it was very interesting, but I love the concept because it brings you into like a family setting, but that would be really cool, as well as a movie based off of your book. So please write the screenplay.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I have started the screenplay. So yeah, because I really wanted to pitch it raw to people, but it seems that it's easier to write the screenplay and then pitch it. I just think it's a really unique story and concept. And so I just think that it would just be, fun, and teaching people inspiration, adventure, how to get over, not let fear overwhelm you. I think that's really it. And I love what you said about you moving to the Cotswolds, a beautiful place in the UK. If anyone wants to visit, go to the Cotswolds, don't come to London.
I visited there twice. I actually bought a Christmas dress for a Christmas party. I said, I have to get a dress in London for the Christmas party. And I did, and it was gorgeous, but it was the most stressful time of my life because it was around Christmas time, so it's super busy. But I can say that I was there.
Yes, yes, I have a love-hate relationship with London. So, but yeah, so and you moving to another country and setting up home. I mean, that's huge amounts of fear in that, and you stuck it out for 3 years. So, we I fear is part of life. It's just how you deal with it, and it's just not allowing it, as you said earlier, not to overwhelm you.
Right.
And So that's what I've kind of done with the screenplay. Although, as I say, it's very, very different from writing a book.
Yeah. Now, are you still traveling? I know with COVID, a lot of that stuff stopped, but um, is it something that you will continue doing, or is that just for that project in that time period?
No, I'm a traveler at heart. I absolutely loved it. Before I went traveling, I was living abroad, and I was kind of moving countries or cities every couple of months. So that's I've got a bit of nomadic in me, but COVID has forced me to stop and be still. And I think that I'm a great believer in the universe, and there's always a reason for everything. And it's probably because to write the screenplay. But saying that, it's very different because when I was writing the book, I don't know if it was the same with you with your book. It was my full-time job at the time. And so I didn't have to arrange it around anything. Oh, well, I had to arrange it around traveling, of course, but I had the time to, when I woke up in the morning, to sit down and write. Whereas when you've got a full-time job and you're trying to also navigate your life, I mean, okay, I don't have children, so I don't have that to worry about, but it's a very different feel to it because you have to sort of almost really force yourself, well, not force yourself, but really be disciplined to sit down and do some writing.
Mhm.
I hate ironing, but it's amazing how attractive that can look when I really don't want to sit down and write.
Right. And that is so true. I've had weeks where I didn't write because I found something else to do. And then when I did sit down to write and I realized how far I was behind on my goals, you set goals for yourself. I was like, oh my God. It's almost like how bad you feel after eating a whole chocolate bar, the king size one. Even though you really wanted it, you were like, oh, now my stomach. But what is your writing process? Do you outline? Are you a pantser like someone like me? I just literally my characters tell me what to do, and I do it. Like I listen to them because I do not want them to start shouting at me as I'm trying to sleep. So, but what is your process?
It is, yes. It's just literally sitting down and seeing what comes out and flows. I think that I'm not a very good person to be rigid. I gave up planning. That was actually one thing I really learned when I was traveling is the universe has a bigger plan than I do. And whatever try and organization and control I have over my life, the universe comes and crushes it and says, don't bother. Throw out the rule book because, you know, we're going to show you the best way. And so that's kind of what I feel. I'm a bit guided by them. And if inspiration takes over, then I will sit and write for a few hours. If it doesn't, and I do find something else to do, then so be it. I don't, because I'm not reliant on the book for income or anything like that. I think it's very different if I would be a writer and it wasn't just a passion project for mine,
Mhm.
then I think it would be very different to feel. I do have the luxury of being able to say, well, today I haven't got the inspiration, I can't write. Um, yeah, I think that's the beauty of my my life with writing.
Yeah, I love that because when you're writing from a place of passion, you're never short of inspiration, right? You'll always find the time to write because it's writing from a place of passion. When people take it on as a career versus a passion, and oh, I've got to get out this many number of words this day and this many number this day so I can have this book out. So I set goals for myself, but I don't like freak out. Does that make sense? Like I'm like, oh, I really wanted it, but life. I used to be a nervous Nancy, a Debbie Downer, and everything was a square. And I have everything organized, but now I'm to the point where it has to be organized for this side of my brain. But then this side of my brown brain realizes just what you said. The world is going to do what it wants to do, and you either go with it or you get slammed into a brick wall. So I have both sides of my brain that work together now. But but what is your biggest inspiration to continue writing?
I think it's just the creative process. I just love creating things for people. And it's just the knowing that I'm inspiring at least one person. And if I can do that, then I've reached my whole life goal almost. I
Mhm.
think that is really it. And there are so many different sort of mediums. I mean, I don't just write, I do other things as well. And interestingly enough, my headmaster told me that I went for an audition for the play at school. It was a singing role. It was a Wizard of Oz, and I went for the lion, and he auditioned me to sing for the lion. And he just sort of closes a piano artist and he goes, I think we'll put you in the choir because we don't want to hurt anyone's ears. And so my confidence in singing had flatlined at that point, and my singing career ended at that moment. But I'm kind of thinking maybe I should resurrect it. And I loved what you said earlier about, these people that the creative people are very successful. So maybe that's my next sort of role in life, is to be a singer. I don't know, but I did try singing, and I recorded myself the other day, and no, I sound as flat as a pancake. But which is pretty awful. But
Well, I would love to sound as flat as a pancake, but I sound as high pitched as a hyena. So, I mean, maybe if you put us together, you're
be a
gonna get
duet. Exactly.
we're gonna sound like ABBA or the Bangles or somebody amazing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Oh, so as a reader, what's your favorite genre?
Oh goodness. Do you know, I absolutely love horror. I love thriller. I'm such a Joe Nesbo fan. I'm reading his new book at the moment, The Kingdom. But I also just love real life. I'm a huge fan of all the Real Housewives, but I also love the one book that really inspired me a few years ago, and I try and encourage anyone to read it. Is Tuesdays with Maury by Mitch Albom. And it's such a fantastic story, and it's so inspiring, and it just teaches the philosophy of life by this teacher who sadly was dying. And he basically said what my mum said, is that you can have all the material wealth and success, but at the end of the day, the people who are going to be at your bedside when you're dying is what is important in life. So don't get too hung up. I mean, I'm a Taurian, so I love things around me. I am very materialistic. So that's why it was so painful having to put my life into 2 suitcases. And but I survived it and realized that actually I can do without stuff, but I've actually got my stuff back now, and I'm just like walking around going, hello, you, I love you, I missed you. But
Oh,
so I do like my comforts around me,
yeah.
and I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but I don't get hugely hung up on needing to have a lot of sort of big material to show how successful I am. I think
Right.
success is a feeling within. And I mean, a measure of success is very individual, it's very personal to
Yep.
everybody.
Mhm.
But anyway, so that's the one book I absolutely love. But I also love romance, comedy, romantic comedies. So I'm just not very good on the intellectual fiction.
Mm. No, if it makes me think too hard, my brain starts to get a little over fizzled, and then I'm like, I need to laugh. I'm done.
Yes, exactly.
Like, I already have to think hard enough with other things I've done. So, if you had any advice to give to another author who is suffering from imposter syndrome, who can't get over their fear, or wants to travel, has diaries of their own moms, any advice, just something that you think is very important for somebody who wants to write a book, what would that advice be?
I think just go with what feels good for you. Your intuition and your gut will guide you and tell you what you want to do. I think that what are your intentions behind the book. And if it's for anybody else rather than you, then just think whether it's really something you want to do. Um, and I think that, with the imposter syndrome, just acknowledge it and make friends with it. And also the fear side of it, make friends with it and don't allow it to overwhelm you. And there are many tips that you can actually do if you are stuck in fear. One of the best ones I was ever told is literally, if you're stuck in fear, just literally stop what you're doing, physically stop, and just say the word out loud, stop. And then that just changes the energy of yourself and your thoughts. And it's very powerful, because we get so messed up in our brains and so in our heads. It's very difficult, and that then sort of blocks the creative process. So I think that it's important not to be in your head too much. And that's where the intuition, the gut, and listening to your body, and have fun with it. Oh my goodness, creation, anything creative is supposed to be fun. So have fun. If you're not having fun, do something else creative. Maybe writing isn't your genre, and you're better off, on theater or something like that, or art, or or anything. I mean, there's so much out there, but I do think allowing yourself to play is incredibly important, and honor the creation and be creative. I think it's hugely therapeutic. So that's kind of about 15 life hacks there in about 2 minutes.
And listen to them very, very closely. Allow yourself to play. And I love that you said that, because you're right. There's not only one way to be creative. I've tried probably every single one of them until I found writing. And it was the one thing that freed my soul, and that is what I stuck with. I couldn't do a craft to save my life. My poor children had the worst science projects ever, but we had fun trying. But when I started writing, my soul became free and I found who I was. So you've got to try different things until your soul becomes free. So I love that advice. Now, one of the things that I found in the author world is we become successful, we become, we it helps us get over our fear. It helps us do so much. Our support network, and sometimes it's not this massive support network. Sometimes it's only one person, and sometimes it's our inner self. So let me ask you, who is your support network? Who was the ones that supported you to get your book baby from your mind to the paper out into the world, and to get it on the shelves and into the hands of other people?
It was different people along the way for different parts of the process, I guess. I was very lucky. I had a brilliant editor who was with me, and we had weekly calls every week. And then she took me through, obviously, the editing, and because there are lots of photographs in the book as well. And so she helped with that process. I went down the self-publishing route, which is obviously something I had discussed with her, rather than finding a publishing house. So that was quite interesting. But my brothers were a great source of, because it was a bit lonely sometimes. I was a lot of the time I was on my own when I was traveling. I would sort of talk to anyone. I had a very quick story. I know we're finishing. Sorry,
No,
it
you're
was just
fine.
I was in LA, and I hadn't talked to somebody for about four days. You talk to the cashier or somebody very quickly. But anyway, these Scientologists were around. They were handing out these leaflets, and it was something about coming to see a movie. And it was obviously, to try and sort of brainwash you to join Scientology. And he heard my accent, and he said, "Oh, where are you from?" So I said, "The UK." And he asked me a question. Anyway, I stood there, and because I hadn't spoken to anybody, I just had verbal diarrhea, and I just talked and talked and talked, and his face just dropped, because it was the realization that actually this woman is just not shutting up. What am I going to do to tell her to be quiet? Because there are so many people passing that I could be handing my flyer out to and getting them to come to the movie so we can, sign all these people up. And And I watched this, so I sort of, teased him more, and I wouldn't let him. I just talked over him. I wouldn't let him, and it was just it's such a funny moment. That was actually before I didn't put that in the book, actually, because I think it was before I sort of started writing the book. But it was so funny. But so the people. I did have a couple of friends that I met when I was traveling, which really, really helped. And so, it was, you do need a support network. But I think that, yes, as I mentioned, I'm very, very independent. And I think that I don't need a lot of people around me. I just, need myself and somebody to talk to now and again for unsuspecting people.
Somebody putting flyers out somewhere, and Sophie is going to grab you. So are you still friends with any of the people that you met on the road?
I am, yes. I mean, yes, the Uber driver, yes, he is a great friend, yes. And also the theatre that I actually went and did an acting class. I do online acting with them at the moment. So yes, I'm still friends with them. Very good friends with the comedy improv person. Yeah, I'm just so lucky that I met all these people. There's amazing people, and yes, they're still with me. I think it's because I keep promising people roles in movies. How to get friends, how to make friends and influence people. Tell them you're writing a movie and they can star in it. It's amazing how popular they become.
That's how you build your support network. You offer them something. You say,
Exactly.
hey, you know what? I'm going to have the most friends in the world. I'm going to write movies. I'm going to give them a spot in my book. Hey.
Exactly.
That's too funny. No, you know what? I bet just meeting you, you make a friend just by someone having a conversation with you. Because I've had an absolute blast in the past, 30, it's been 39 minutes and I'm having a blast. I mean, I could sit and listen to your story over and over, and I'm going to finish reading your book as well. So I'm going to know a lot of it. We're going to be intimate friends. Well, not that type of intimate, but very close friends. So, how do people find you if they want to read your book or just talk to you more, book you for a show, or learn more about your podcast or anything else?
Yeah, well, thanks for allowing me to share it. My book is, of course, available on Amazon or any good bookstores online. And you can get hold of me through Sophie at Sophfree, SOPHFREE.com. You can email me, or my website, sophfree.com. And the podcast is Whine with Sophie, WHINE. And that's on all major platforms. But yeah, I very happy to chat to anybody who wants inspiration, or or has decided that there are enough disasters in their life like mine and they need some support. I'm very happy to help out. But it's been absolute pleasure and such fun to chat to you and to chat to a fellow author. It's great.
Thank you. You're like, I've been around the world. I've been there, done that. So if you want to talk about it, let's do this thing. So you guys reach out to Sophie because she's a blast to talk to. I'm a quarter of the way through your book. It's a great book. I stand by it that every mother and daughter needs to read together at the same time so they can talk about it and enjoy that mother-daughter relationship, even though it was across so many years and so many lines, even though Sophie's mother had passed away by the time Sophie went on her travels. It's really heartwarming as well as freeing and adventurous. Like when I'm reading some of the parts of your mother and her girlfriends, I'm going, oh my God, they just jumped in that car and they went. God bless them, and then, one of the places that you stayed at, and I was like, okay, so, but I won't give any spoilers to anybody. So, do you have any last words before I do, my talking thing and tell everybody about all the stuff that we have for the rest of the week?
No, I mean, I guess if you buy the hardback, then if you don't really want to read the book, it makes a great bookend.
Hey. Hey, I love that you're giving them choices.
Yes.
But read the book. Read the book. It's
Yes, I mean
really
it's
interesting.
great. Yes, I mean if you're not very good with words either, there are great pictures in there, and yeah,
Yeah.
the difference between then and now is quite amazing, really.
Yeah, I loved the pictures, and I'm loving the
Mm.
pictures. I haven't seen all of them, but I'm loving the pictures. There's one with your mom and her mom in there, and I'm a fan of, for me, the 1920s is my era. I think that I was born in the wrong time period. That's why I watch a lot of shows from back in that time, like Call the Midwife, that type of stuff.
Mhm.
So, but anyways, I would just talk forever. So I'm going to go ahead and go because obviously I'm having a little, girl time here. So, guys, Sophie, thank you so much for being here tonight. I have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you for staying up till 1 a.m. UK time to have a conversation with us, share with us the beauty that is your book, your mom's diaries, the adventures that she went on, the adventures that you went on, and the wonderful things that you are doing to help women just basically take themselves back to the basic core of who they are and learn how to be free from all of the preconceived notions that the world puts on them, like your headmaster, his wife, and all the other people that ever doubted you, because if they could see you now, just soaring above the clouds. And I absolutely love that. And guys, don't forget to join us on Thursday. We have the Bombshell Book Review. We will be reviewing, it is the last week of Straight from the Heart by Tracy Bannister, our rom com that we are having such a good time with. Head over to theauthorsporch.com for the Author's Porch magazine, our first installment. But don't worry, we'll be having another one come September 30th, which is my birthday. But we're going to be doing,
Woo!
it's a quarterly magazine. So make sure that you go over and you check that out. And every Friday, we have Friday writing tips where I compile information from different authors, different businesses, different resources to make sure that you have tips to keep you going on your writing career. With that said, guys, have a blessed night. Sophie, hopefully you will get some sleep after this and be refreshed. And we are done.
Thank you.
Yay. Thanks. See you later, guys. Bye.